Hey team, super interesting one to chat about today, and that is, Susan, why isn't my weight decreasing? Now, if you're keeping an eye on what your weight is doing and you're actively eating a little bit less and moving a little bit more, there are some things that can just naturally affect our ability to look less on the scales, okay? So remember we talked about in an early video how this focusing on that weight on the scales as a goal isn't really the full picture. Instead, we should be focusing on the process that gets us to the goal, and the goal is going to take care of itself. But just to explain why sometimes the weight doesn't move in a linear fashion, here are some little tidbits that you might be interested in. So, number one, you might wake up the next day and after you've had a high salt meal, your body's going to be holding on to more water. Salt causes you to hold more water in your body, which is why to help hydrate us, we have a little bit more salt in our diet. Another reason could be hormones as well. Different fluctuations in hormones can cause this, where we're actually holding on to more water. And sometimes hormones like progesterone in females, with the fluctuations across a month, means that our food is actually progressing slower through the gut. So we're actually keeping food in our body for longer, but we're also absorbing more of it as well. Also, time of day can be a big one as well. So sometimes if we eat all of our calories more towards the end of the day, then of course you've had less time to digest those calories. So therefore, if you're weighing yourself the next morning, you're going to appear heavier on the scales simply because you ate more food more recently to when you're weighing yourself. Another one is the volume of food that we're having. So volume of food is something that we look forward to when we reduce our calories. Things like salads help to bulk up the amount of food that we're having to make us feel fuller for longer. But the upshot of that is sometimes we just simply have more food in our gut. Now that's not a wrong thing to be, and it's not wrong to be heavier as a result of having more food in our gut. And we certainly don't want to get rid of fiber because it has a number of very important benefits. But if we take this into account, it can help us see that maybe it's not the goal that's incorrect, and maybe the outcome is simply not changing for some factors that could really be quite positive. Incidentally, time of day, it certainly doesn't matter what time you eat your food at if you're male. So provided you're having the right number of calories across the day and your average is correct during the week for your goals, you're going to reach those goals. But if you're female, it is better to have those meals evenly spaced across the day, because our body will actually end up burning more calories during the day from having enough energy right across the day. If we were to skew that more towards the end of the day, or maybe we fast for the later half of the day, we don't really change how many calories we're having, but we do change how much NEAT that we're using, our non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and also occasionally how much energy we can actually put into our sessions as well. So some of the most important times to eat during the day, regardless of whether you're male or female, is a little bit before exercise, depending on how fast you can digest, sometimes 2 hours before exercise, sometimes an hour before exercise, and that provides the energy for the session, for the intensity. And then right after the session, having within 30 minutes of your session, that will help you to repair and recover for your next session, so you're boosting that recovery. All right, so those are some of the positive things that might be affecting that weight on the scale. But there are some other negative considerations that we need to take into account. So that can be under-recording. And what I typically say is, when you're recording things on MyFitnessPal, if you are out at a restaurant and it's not clear exactly what you're eating, and say it's a Caesar salad, don't pick the one that's lightest on calories, don't pick the one that's heaviest on calories, but instead pick the one that's in the middle. That way you can be consistent when you're recording, because it is possible to actually turn around and pick the one that has maybe only 12 calories in it, which doesn't even cover how many calories are in an egg, and almost be fooling yourself that you're under eating over the course of time, when really you're having a whole lot more than what you're saying. And incidentally, just make sure you write down everything that you're tracking when you're eating it, otherwise you won't remember at the end of the day. Recall is entirely inaccurate, and that's been shown in research studies. The next one is, if you're not having enough sleep, and this is different for everyone, if you're not having enough sleep, and especially the restorative kind, your body is in a stress mode and tends to hold on to more water. And on top of that, we tend not to be as energetic the next day. Now, sleep could be 7 to 8 hours for some people, but it's really about how many sleep cycles you go through a night. So for some people, they can get through all 5 sleep cycles in 6 hours. And then in other people, they can get through that in more that kind of 8-hour mark. So it's just the number of sleep, the amount of sleep that you need to get through that 5 sleep cycles. The other one is, a lot of people aren't drinking enough water. In order to be able to create energy from the body, you need to be drinking enough water to help create that energy from your stored energy. People that drank more water, not only did they end up eating less food as a result of not mistaking thirst for hunger, but on top of that, water helps you feel more energetic. And athletes all know this. Their performance will diminish by at least 20% when they're only 80% dehydrated. Sorry, 20% dehydrated. Stress is another factor. If your stress is increased, that increases this hormone called cortisol in the body. This hormone makes you hold on to more water, but it also causes your body to think that you're actually running from like a lion or some sort of acute stressor. Stress was never designed to be something that's ongoing, like we get at the workplace or like we get in life with, you know, various things going on in relationships, that sort of thing. Stress was always designed to be this little short acute time. The body holds on to extra energy and helps to keep energy stores such as fat when we're in cortisol mode. Reason being, it thinks that we're about to run away from a lion, so it would be very not adaptive to get rid of all of that energy source if we're in that kind of cortisol mode. So some things that can help with that we'll talk about later on are a type of meditation, if that helps you, or something I like to call decompression, which is where you sort of go on a walk and you just have the opportunity to just deconnect from things and let your body process things in your mind and be out in nature. So that's one tip that we can go into. Stay tuned later on for a video that goes a little bit more into stress reduction. Sometimes people aren't having enough fiber in their diet, and fiber is very important for your health. When you increase the amount of fiber that you're having, your likelihood to die from all different types of death or comorbidities goes all the way down. So it's definitely one that you want for your health. Never mind that fiber will help you to lose weight because it will help you feel fuller for longer and it will feed those good bacteria in your gut. Protein is another one that people fall short on, especially if you're vegan or vegetarian. So if you're not quite having enough protein, then you won't be having enough of that metabolism boost. So muscle just sitting there doing absolutely nothing is burning more calories than when you don't have as much muscle there. So every time you're not eating enough protein, your body goes to your muscle to grab protein because it can't manufacture it from the carbohydrates or fat. So if you are not having enough protein, your body is actually getting rid of the metabolically active muscle in order to feed you the protein that you require for repair. So that's a simple fix. Just boost that protein intake. Another one is your calories might be far too low. So that's different from under-recording. Perhaps you've tried to drop your calories too fast and too soon. This is why I like to only drop maybe about 200 calories for a very mild deficit right at the start of reducing your calories or right at the start of, say, wanting to increase weight. Reason being, your body is a lot smarter than you are. And if you want to gain weight or lose weight, if you jump, say if you want to lose weight, if you jump too low too soon, you don't really have much to play with. If you go from 2,000 calories to 1,500, you've missed out on being able to really slowly bring yourself down whilst keeping the most amount of muscle mass possible. So going too low too fast will have a negative impact on your metabolism, but also have a negative impact on the amount of calories that you burn and your metabolic rate long term. So this is what we don't want to do. All right, stay tuned for next week.